Before we get into the VTuber news, I need to preface this video by talking about New Year, and I don't mean January 1st. Are you familiar with Chinese New Year, happening next year on February 10th? Well, apparently, the Asian community doesn't call it Chinese New Year because it's not only China that celebrates it, they call it Lunar New Year, which is a little bit confusing for me because I'm Jewish and we have our own Lunar New Year, and we call it Rosh Hashanah, which also follows a lunar calendar, but a completely different one. So I am not going to call it Lunar New Year because you're not the only culture with a Lunar New Year, and that's too confusing. So just for context for the rest of the video, I'm going to refer to this as Asian New Year because apparently Chinese New Year is exclusionary and offensive, but I'm not calling it Lunar New Year because there's more than one Lunar New Year and that's confusing to me. Now that we're on the same page, why does any of this matter? Well, it turns out the VTuber Bao has been getting harassed by the Vietnamese community for referring to the Asian New Year as Chinese New Year, which I found out today wasn't its correct title. Now, because I'm several days late to this news update, a lot of the tweets that I would want to show you documenting the harassment that she's been receiving have just straight up been deleted, as have many of the accounts themselves. And the only real evidence of some of these tweets ever existing is just people flipping out going, what did she do to make you hate her this much? And someone thankfully coming in and explaining, they mad she said Chinese New Year instead of Lunar New Year. I thought she cursed the entirety of Vietnam or something with how these reactions are. Wait, that's it? So as you can see, people are baffled just as I was about how angry the Vietnamese community was about Bao saying Chinese New Year instead of Lunar New Year. I would like to clarify that Bao is from the Midwest, as am I, so we are on the exact same wavelength when it comes to this issue. Neither of us knew that this was a problem. Now, after this controversy exploded on Twitter and people started dogging Bao really heavily, she went and made a statement explaining her position and explaining how she made this mistake, if you can even call it a mistake, because we call it Chinese New Year in America. But she goes on to say, I grew up in the middle of nowhere Midwest. I was one of 3 Asian kids in my entire high school and never met another Vietnamese kid my age that could even speak the language until I joined social media. I grew up only knowing what my parents taught me and still can't barely read. It's insane that I'm being called a traitor for stepping on a landmine I could have never seen coming. I've always been very verbal about how much I've yet to learn. Hordes of you have been harassing me for months for something I didn't know and isn't common knowledge in America. And yeah, I know I have a lot of Asian fans, especially from Indonesia and the Philippines specifically, according to my analytics. I can 100% tell you the average America doesn't know anything about Vietnam aside from the Vietnam War.
Malaysia, I'm gonna put here.
Okay, this is Thailand. Oh, I think I'm wrong.
Okay, so this is Cambodia. I say this is Singapore. This is Myanmar?
Yeah.
All right, we'll do
And
it.
then that's Vietnam.
Okay.
Brunei.
No.
Cambodia.
No.
Cyprus.
No.
Wait, Cyprus.
Where?
No.
She goes on to say, I was begged every stream to speak Vietnamese or to say this or that word, even when people ignored my chat or server rules, harassed my mods. I never said anything or never blamed anyone for their lack of knowledge of VTuber community etiquette. Who was gonna tell me VTubing was gonna turn me into a socio-political figurehead? Bro, I did not sign up for this shit. But as I look further into it, it turns out that that's not the only issue the Vietnamese community is angry about, as apparently she sang a whole ass song in Vietnamese, which I think is pretty dope. I've never heard a song in Vietnamese before. That sounds cool. I'd love for a popular VTuber to sing a song in Vietnamese, and I'm 100% gonna go check that out after this video, cause that sounds dope as shit. But apparently, after recording the video, she complained about how hard it was to sing in Vietnamese. And I have to imagine that's because Vietnamese isn't her first language. She grew up in the Midwest, and to show you what I mean, I'm gonna highlight this tweet here that says, they're not mad because you're not good at Vietnamese, they're mad because you acted like singing Vietnamese is so difficult, so you, Vietnamese fans, better be grateful and give me views, which is basically your tweet, and you still haven't apologized for that Chinese New Year tweet. And honestly, it's baffling to me that you could be upset at someone for struggling with a language and complaining about how hard it is. Anyone who's ever tried to learn another language knows how hard that shit is. Now, Bao absolutely roasted this man and said, "That's crazy because you went to my Twitter, you used advanced search to dig up my old tweets, and you dug around until there was something to justify harassing me for months, and now you want me to apologize? I don't owe you an apology, you just want to use me as a punching bag." Which, can I just say, holy shit, pop off, Bao. Absolutely lay into these fucking haters. I know people always give the advice to just ignore the haters, but if someone has been harassing you for months, you 100% have the right to call them out and get them absolutely fucking ratioed on Twitter. Now, as per usual, it's not all doom and gloom. It's always a vocal minority of angry social rejects on Twitter who are causing the biggest of fuss. But as we can see evidenced here, the true fans will rise through. And Bao thanks these people, saying, "To my sweet Vietnamese fans, thank you for educating me and being understanding that people outside of Vietnam have a very limited knowledge on social issues. I appreciate everyone trying to clear up misunderstandings, and I'm deeply sorry for hurting you." Which honestly, I think is a perfectly fair apology, because it's just called Chinese New Year around here. That's like asking me to apologize for saying pop instead of soda. It's not even a thing I would comprehend apologizing for. Bao goes on to say, "I'm not ashamed of my heritage, and I will always be proud to speak a second language. I do not regret being open about where I'm from. I thought that even if I explained my side, people would not forgive me, and that's why I remained silent for so long, but the hate is too much. I just wanted to sing a cover in Vietnamese and I meant no harm. I don't know how I can fix this, but thank you to everyone who still believes that I'm not a bad person or someone who hates my own heritage." Mid-apology, acknowledging that she upset her Vietnamese fans, she gets this message. "Yup, some anti-fans can also hack and find out the home addresses of those who dare stand up to defend Bao. There is an owner of a Bao fan page in Vietnam who has to lock the page because fear of their attack," which is insane. Imagine going to bat for your Oshi and then getting hacked and doxed on the internet over a stupid internet beef about the correct terminology of a holiday. And Bao chiming in to say, "What the actual fuck is wrong with people? This is horrifying and sickening. Leave innocent parties out of this. I truly hope whoever doxed that owner goes to jail." Let's take a look at some of these quote retweets, shall we? "I'm a Vietnamese, born here and raised here. For other non-Viet and Vietnamese kids raised out of Vietnam that don't find anything upset about, you know nothing. You know nothing about the pain that has haunted generations of Vietnamese, so shut up. Don't babying her." Which, I feel like you simultaneously nailed the point and missed the point at the same time. You're correct. We know nothing about the pain that has haunted generations of Vietnamese. We have no idea what the fuck's going on. All we see is someone saying something seemingly innocuous and then getting flamed for it out of nowhere. We don't know. And just because she is ethnically Vietnamese doesn't mean she was born with Vietnamese history injected into her brain. It doesn't happen like that. Y'all non-Viets should shut up. This is literally a convo between Viets and Viets only. Don't even call us psychopaths unless you truly understand our issues. We don't understand your issues. That's the point. And Bao is an American, so she shouldn't be held by the Vietnamese standard. Stop, excuse, fame, fucker. You really want to bash Bao for complaining about how hard it is to sing in Vietnamese when you can't even put together a coherent English sentence? Shut up, bro. When will Bao be able to understand that no one is forbidden to speak Vietnamese? She's intentionally saying Chinese New Year instead of Lunar New Year, and now look who's crying and saying sorry for the matter that she has intentionally kept it silent all the time. I really like how they put Chinese New Year in an acronym like it's some sort of forbidden word, but then they fully spell out Lunar New Year with full capitals like it's more important, and then if you notice, they misspell it. They forgot the R at the end. You were so intentionally trying to minimize Chinese New Year and expand emphasis on Lunar New Year, and then you fucking misspelled it. Ah, god damn it. Normally I would not be making fun of people who speak English as a second language for fucking up the English language. English is a fucking impossible language to learn. It's one of the hardest ones to learn out there. It's the only language I speak and I can barely fucking get it right. The only reason I'm making fun of them for their English skills is because they're harassing Bao for complaining about Vietnamese. And it's that double standard that I can't fucking stand. And I want to make it very clear, I'm not going to tolerate any flack from the Asians in my comment section, because when I made a video about how Anna was saying something that was racist, every single Asian in my comment section said something to the effect of, American stereotypes aren't common knowledge, and it's stupid for me to assume that everyone understands American culture. You lit my ass up over and over and over, going on and on about how it's not appropriate to assume that other countries know your culture. And then here I see the Asian community bashing someone for not knowing their culture after you bash my ass over and over in my comment section for assuming you understood my culture. The hypocrisy. The absolute fucking hypocrisy. I cannot stand it. But I have rambled on far too long. I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.